Since before the 2024 election, there's been much speculation on JD Vance's presidential ambitions in the 2028 election. Now, this was before Donald Trump even won in 2024. Now that Donald Trump has been president for almost 6 months at this point, questions are really starting to swirl about his ambitions for 2028. We know Donald Trump cannot run in 2028. Donald Trump is also amassing a massive war chest, roughly $600 million at this point he has on hand, with goals to get to close to $1 billion by the summer of 2026. And wondering, who is going to lead the party forward? There's going to be this massive war chest, this massive operation that Donald Trump has spent the last decade building in the Republican Party. Who will lead it forward? And I think it's very fair to say that JD Vance is the favorite and the most likely person to lead the party forward after Donald Trump. You know, JD Vance has gone from a skeptic of Donald Trump in 2016 to really someone at the heart of the MAGA movement in 2025. In his loyalty to Trump, his fiery defense of Donald Trump and the values and policy prescriptions that have been put forward by the Trump administration have made him a hero with the base. And Donald Trump Jr. has said it best in October of 2024. He said, we're getting 4 more years of Trump and then 8 years of JD Vance, which just shows that there is a lot of support from inside of the Trump administration, inside of the Trump inner circle, that Vance is the heir apparent as of right now. And I'm not going to say this is done and over with, no question. Trust me, Marco Rubio, JD Vance, you got some big names. Tulsi Gabbard, maybe an RFK Jr. You got some big names there. But look at the polling right now. The polling's pretty clear right now. JD Vance consistently leads. Now, right now in the aggregate, the polling aggregate from race to the White House, JD Vance holds a 42.4% lead or average in this polling aggregate. It was actually like 48, 49% just a couple days ago, but then Atlas Intel dropped this most recent poll right here, which Vance was only getting 37% in. A lot of people who said another candidate, plus you had Marco Rubio getting almost 19%. Like, he was getting, like, look, 5, 6, 4, 2, 5, 3, 3, 2, 9. Like, and then to go to 18%, you could say it's a little bit of an outlier. But I'm going to say this is closer to like a 50%. JD Vance is holding a roughly 50%, is where he's polling at. Holding about a 35, 36, 37 point lead in the aggregate is probably where he's at right now. And we even saw it at CPAC 2025. Vance dominated the straw poll, got like 60 or 70%, proving that there is grassroots support and energy for him to lead the party forward. And plus, like we said, President Trump's political operation is sitting on a jaw-dropping $600 million. $600 million. Which is just insane. It's unprecedented in modern politics. Completely unprecedented to see something like this. Particularly for a lame duck president, but also for someone in a president in their first term. Because Donald Trump made a very clear decision after he won in 2024 that he was going to double down on his fundraising efforts. Because he knew he did not want to be a lame duck president the last 2 years. He wanted to win the House. He wanted to win the Senate. He wants to keep the Senate, keep the House. And then obviously to set him and really the next leader of the party up for 2028, allow him to be a kingmaker in the party. And he knew he would be, before you start to get people who push back on him for policies he's going to start to implement, he knew that was the best time. From November to January was the best time to fundraise. And now he's sitting on $600 million with an ultimate goal of raising close to $1 billion. $1 billion for his agenda to hold the House and the Senate in the midterms next November. And like we said, this is very, very unprecedented for a president, especially one who really tried to self-fund most of the way through his first presidential race. And now he sees it. The more money he amasses, the more power he amasses. It's just as simple as that. And we know that Democrats routinely outraise Republicans in election after election. So why not start now? Why not start now? Why not get ahead of the curve? Why not make sure that Democrats are not going to outraise us? It's just not going to happen. You even see that has these fundraisers like $1.5 million per head events. Per person, $1.5 million. That he had one in Las Vegas, it was like $1 million a head. But this is going to give Trump unmatched influence over not only the GOP's future, but the House, the Senate, the whole party, the country. This gives him so much control here. And like we said, because he's term limited in 2028, he will be a kingmaker with this money. And with Vance as his VP, that money could fuel a Vance campaign, giving him a financial edge that almost no rival is going to be able to match on the Republican side or the Democrat side. And JD Vance, let's talk about him. Vance made history. You want to talk about why he will be, not only will be the nominee, but will most likely win in 2028? It's because Vance made history as the first sit-in vice president to become the RNC's finance chair role. And not even just with the Republican National Committee, like the Democrats too. To be the sit-in vice president, to be the finance chair. It's a role that puts him in the room with GOP, some of their biggest donors. Some of the biggest GOP donors. Look back at the last 3 presidents who then had their vice presidents run. You had Ronald Reagan and you had George H.W. Bush in 88. You had Bill Clinton and Al Gore then in 2000. You had Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2016. Obviously, Biden didn't run in 2016. They picked Hillary Clinton over Biden, or that's what Obama, the kingmaker of the Democrat Party, chose. And then Biden obviously ran in 2020. But they had nowhere near the access to the donor class like Vance is getting here. And you cannot... It's unmatched what these relationships can do. If Vance can build good relationships with the donors, with people who he can fundraise lots of money from, that'll be huge. That will put him in a position unlike any vice president in modern history. Because it's not just a side gig. It is a power move in the RNC. Because JD Vance is a leader, not only a thought leader, but an actual leader in the GOP. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say I agree with everything that JD Vance, every single one of his policies, especially when it comes to foreign policy. I have some serious critiques of it. But you cannot deny the reality here. He is building a donor network that could lock up the 2028 nomination. And just think of that. Because he's the RNC chair, the finance chair, he may not see huge challenges from within inside the GOP in 2028. The amount of money and fundraising network and infrastructure that he's going to be able to lay between now and, what would you say, summer of 2027? I think there's a lot there. And every dollar that you're not spending on a primary is a dollar you're going to spend on the general election. So Vance not only has the MAGA base, the polls, now he's going to get a money machine behind him, and Trump, with his massive war chest, is probably going to be spending a lot of money on Vance. Now, Trump's come out and said, I'm not endorsing anyone yet. He thinks Rubio, he thinks Vance could both be good leaders going forward, and I agree. We'll just see what happens. But we cannot overstate what is happening with Vance being the finance chair. No sit-in vice president has ever taken on the RNC finance chair role. It's unprecedented, totally unprecedented, and gives Vance direct control over the party's fundraising strategy for the 2026 midterms, which is going to be a huge test for the GOP and what they can do. And this is a power move, and he'll be able to interact and rub elbows with the right people, influence the 2028 primary rules. It's it's huge here. And then you want to talk about, you can throw money at anything. This was a big critique of the Democrats in 2024. Democrats were doing the old-fashioned door knocking. That was their get out to vote. Versus the Republicans, with Charlie Kirk really leading things. We saw this was a data-driven operation. It was data-driven. It was about contacting the right voters. We don't want to door knock in a neighborhood where we know 50% of the people are not going to. They're just not going to vote our way, no matter what we say to them. But if you have the right data, if you can how can you reach them? By email, by phone, by text message, maybe a postcard. Events. How can you meet them? How can you get in front of the right people? We're not trying to appeal to the masses. We're trying to appeal to the people that we have the best opportunity. We're going to get the best return on investment when it comes to money that's been donated to the campaign that's then being spent to drive more voters to the party, to win more power. And with Vance headlining multi-million dollar fundraisers like the $1 million per head event that he headed in Las Vegas, and with his ties to people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, give him a huge start in securing cash, which is needed for a presidential run. Now, we already know Elon said he's going to really pull it back as far as campaign funding. But Peter Thiel, JD Vance actually used to work for Peter Thiel. That could be huge. He's a huge Silicon Valley. Democrats have made it clear they don't want tech bros in their party. They don't want tech bros in their party. And there are some Republicans who, at this point, who are even saying, might as well just cancel the 2028 primaries because of his donor access is going to make this nomination almost inevitable. Almost inevitable at this point. But ultimately, we're going to see. We're going to see if he can deliver a win in 2026. If he can cement his status as the GOP's next leader. But a run will be not without challenges. Because while Trump does call Vance fantastic, he did stop short of a full endorsement, saying in February that it's too early to tell at this point, and there's a lot of very capable people in the party. And Trump's influence is going to be everything in this next primary. If he backs someone like Marco Rubio, Vance could lose the edge that he has with the grassroots support from the MAGA movement. And Marco Rubio, now the Secretary of State, is a contender, and Trump has praised him, especially on Rubio's foreign policy experience. His broader appeal could challenge Vance's MAGA dominance. Then you look at people like Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor Glenn Youngkin are also eyeing a 2028 bid when they have their own donor networks already at cash on hand for a successful, or for what could be a successful bid in 2028. Like, there was a lot of Republicans who were not very happy that Marco Rubio was in the running to be VP, number two, that he was Secretary of State. After he went and testified in front of the Senate about a week ago, there was a lot of Republicans and conservatives who were really starting to kind of reel their criticism of Marco Rubio back in. There's someone on Twitter who I from Minnesota, really good guy, big conservative, not the biggest fan of Marco Rubio, has for the last probably month nothing but great things to say about Marco Rubio and the job he is doing as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is doing a great job as Secretary of State, pushing forward, especially when it comes to deportations. There's so many things that he's pushing forward. So I think that there's you have 2, 3, 4 very capable people. I think at this point, most likely it's going to be Rubio or Vance. But you have to say right now, there's just not enough evidence to say it's going to be Rubio. The evidence points to Vance. Because Vance embodies the America First movement. They're pro-worker, they're anti-China, they're tough on immigration, and his policies resonate with the GOP base that delivered a huge landslide. And I shouldn't say huge landslide, because it was a big win, but was it a landslide by historical precedent? No. It was an unprecedented victory simply because of the nature. Biden dropping out. Biden, cognitive decline. Harris, 100 days, $1.5 billion she spent. Tried to be polished. Lost all 7 swing states. Trump, they convict him on what? 34 felonies. They had all these things that they tried to put Trump in jail. They tried to take his businesses down. They tried to do anything they could to destroy Donald Trump, the Democrats, and the mainstream media. And their network of judges funded by Alex Soros and George Soros. And he still delivered. And I think as of right now, I think JD Vance is the only person as of now that could be capable of carrying Trump's legacy forward. And, you couple that. He's going to head the finance chair. Trump's got $600 million, wants to have $1 billion, will most likely have money left over for a 2028 run. Trump's going to fundraise like there is no tomorrow after the midterms. And then you have Vance. He's 40. He's a millennial, first millennial VP. He connects with younger voters. He connects with voters in the Rust Belt state. His values, his story, from Rust Belt struggles to VP, he is a fighter. And I think for all those reasons, it's very safe to say that JD Vance will run for president in 2028. And not only run, but he probably will win. We didn't even start talking about how bad things are for the Democrats. For any criticism people have for the Republicans, look at the Democrats. Oh, Donald Trump's approval rating came down 3 percentage points. from 48 to 45. Well, look at the Democrats. They're at a 25 or 30% approval rating. So, like, who's really in the shitter here? Like let's be honest about this. Who's really in the shitter? So, we have other videos that we really go in depth on why I think Vance could win because of a lot of things that the Democrats are doing that are just so anti-American, anti-worker, anti-male. It's like we go into it so much. But that is going to wrap things up for today, folks. As always, drop down below if you like this video. Drop down below, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And folks, we will catch you next time.